Nigeria has stepped onto the global stage at the World Economic Forum annual meetings in Davos, with Nigeria's Vice President Kashim Shettima officially flagging off Nigeria House, the country's hub for high-level dialogue and investor engagement. The pavilion is hosting a series of conversations focused on economic reforms, policy stability, and investment opportunities as Nigeria seeks to reposition itself within the global economy. Joining the Vice President at Davos are key members of the economic team, including the Finance Minister, Wale Edun, and Trade and Investment Minister, Dr. Geopolitical, as the government works to reinforce confidence, attract capital, and deepen international partnerships. Now, Wale Edun, the Minister of Finance and the Coordinating Minister of the Economy of Nigeria, spoke to Arise business correspondent and the anchor of the show at the World Economic Forum in Davos. For more on that.
For Nigeria, as you said, at this time at which we are continuing on a path of economic reform, restoring policy credibility and indeed macroeconomic stability, we, like others, are looking for growth, job-rich, inclusive growth, as others are. And that means investment that increases productivity and grows the economy. And you know, let's take a leaf from the fact that even the U.S., I think, recently announced a $1.4 trillion package and a program of investments for, I think, over about 10 years with UAE. And for us, it is no different. We're here to stake our claim for foreign direct investment, and I'm given Mr. President's global economic diplomacy, which in fact led to just last week or so. It was the UAE. We signed a comprehensive economic partnership agreement. These are the ways to attract funds from those that have money to invest, that are looking for safe, profitable, predictable and reliable investment climates. And of course, they're looking for returns on their investment. And we're looking to do the same. So we're looking, we have a couple of things in the pipeline, and we too are looking to announce perhaps a couple of investments similar to what other people are doing. That's why we're here. We're here to attract investment to Nigeria, and also to make the case to Nigerians as well, Nigerians in diaspora and even Nigerians at home.
Fantastic, and look, the reforms, of course, will help that narrative as well. We've asked everybody this question: your take on Donald Trump's speech, and whether or not, with what's been going on, the geopolitical tensions, that would impact your dialogue with U.S. investors. How do you see that dynamic?
Well, definitely. We've had here, I think they announced for the third year, for the third time, addressing Davos, the President of the United States, of course, the most, perhaps in many ways, the most powerful man on the stage in terms of economy, in terms of society. He was here, and he made his case for how America was doing, and how he felt that it would continue to do well. The major audience, really, were Europe, and he had most to say for them, because once he announced that he was not going to take military action, we had already seen that he has rolled back the import regime, the import tariffs that were imposed last April. So I think the good news was mainly for Europe in that direction. And for us, what would matter is that given our open society and economy, and given our free market policies that we are pursuing, what matters is that world trade is growing. Global output is growing, so we can be part of it. We know Africa, just 3% perhaps of world trade, just 2.5% of global output. But as that increases, that gives us more opportunity for exports. I mean, we export, just less than $4 billion to the US, but it is important, and we want it growing in the right direction. So to the extent that there was not policies that tightened world trade further, what President Trump had to say also was optimistic and encouraging for us.
Fantastic. Now, speaking of optimistic and encouraging, that's been the narrative with Nigeria at Davos this year, because, of course, you're coming on the wave of reforms. But for the Nigerian watching at home that says, how does this Davos trip help me here? What's your message to them watching at home?
Well, for the Nigerian at home, the policies that have been followed, for them, the ultimate aim is that we have I would say, rapid, sustained, and inclusive growth that creates jobs, that provides greater income for them, and of course, that lowers inflation. So, in terms of what we are doing here, we're looking, first of all, in our own manufacturing sector, where we are re-industrializing. We now have, through the Dangote and other private refineries, we now have petrochemicals, we now have industrial raw materials, which allow us to attract investors to produce domestically for a huge domestic market as well as for exports, and that creates jobs. So there's that. Then, of course, for our demographic, and you know, we are here today as part of the conversation. We have to take our own place at the table. So when there's talk of what's going to be happening in Europe and how they're going to be growing, we point out to them the important demographic that by 2050, 25% of the working population will be in Africa, and it must be skilled, it must be catered for, it must be accommodated within the world social order. Otherwise, you have lack of cohesion, which will affect them. But for that youth demographic in particular, what do we have in store? We are here talking to the top technology companies in the world so that they too can invest in Nigeria, invest in our talent, and that would give our youngsters, to the extent that we give them what they need, infrastructure. They need fiber optic networks. We have a huge 90,000 kilometer project underway, and that would allow them, along with other items such as data, such as technology generally, to be able to sell their services across the internet. Exports of services by our young people caters for that demographic. And then finally, we're also in the conversation regarding what matters most to Nigerians. We point out, and we have pointed out in conversations here, that 96% of enterprises are in the informal sector. And that informal sector is micro, small, and medium scale, you know, some as low as 5 million turnover, up to about 500 million turnover. And that is the area in which we want to drive down access to finance, access to skills, and of course, access to markets. So that particular initiative, we call it our ward-based development program, where we go down to the wards, identify actors, economic actors, and provide them with what they need to increase their productivity. And so that's what we have in store for Nigerians. But the important lesson here is that really, with the world looking to spend more on security, with the world looking to do more bilateral transactions, it means that Nigeria, other African countries, have to rely on our own resources. We have to reform our economies in a way in which is being done in Nigeria. And I must say that one of the things that came out of what President Trump had to say showed that in Nigeria, the President Bola Ahmed Tinubu is a man who believes in fiscal federalism. He is following the letter and the spirit of independence and autonomy for the central bank, leaving the central bank governor to make his own decisions. That was the opposite to what we had. In fact, President Trump said he's going to change the central bank governor because he's not lowering interest rates. Right. That really is not the way the world believes central banks should be treated. And I must say that in Nigeria, we have all joined in the fight against inflation, led, of course, by the central bank, and we accept the fiscal burden of high interest rates and high debt servicing, because if you do not battle inflation, you are not supporting the ordinary man who needs stable, steady prices, and he needs his purchasing power to be protected.
It's a very pertinent point there on inflation, Honourable Minister. Thank you for that. Some just domestic issues, just looking at the budget and looking ahead to 2026. We understand the government is looking to sell off some assets to the tune of about 189 billion. Could that figure be bigger? I mean, when you look at, I know NNPC is also looking at some things, real estate. So do you think, that figure could be higher?
The short answer is yes, it could be and it should be, and we are hoping that it will be, because we look at it more broadly. What you are talking about is private sector funding and private sector participation in the economy, in the sense that the government is stepping back and allowing the private sector to come in. And it's a broader conversation than a few identified utilities or government-owned companies. The idea is for a stable, predictable macroeconomic environment that encourages the private sector to come in droves. And we have a very good prospect, and we are about to really focus on having mass savings by Nigerians. If you look at the stock market that went up by 60-odd% last year, that is showing that there is the capacity and there is the wherewithal for Nigerians to invest in. So when they see a stable macroeconomic environment, when they see in particular a stable exchange rate, for years and years, it has always been a one-way bet. Get your salary or get your savings, change it to dollars, and you are okay. That is no longer the case. In fact, people who changed their money to dollars last year, if they change it back, they are losing. But on the other hand, there must be investment opportunities at all levels for the retail investor as well as the big, huge, large-scale investor in factories and even foreign investors. So for those, the stock market is the way in which they will be able to, maybe with the benefit of help from fund managers and various structures like that, they will be able to, instead of just consuming, save, have unearned income, and at the same time, we will have the funds to fund productivity, to fund production at all levels of the economy, including the relatively, what would I say, the relatively profitable but uncertain technology sector. Those with ideas, those with plans and projections, they need to find backing for their investment ideas, and it will come from Nigerians. We're here in Davos, and we're seeing that it's not just America first, it's more or less everybody first, and we must do the same to an extent.
Yeah. Honourable Minister, thank you for talking about the stock market, and please, can you keep talking? Because we preach it every day on our show that people should invest, so it's good to hear the government talking about that as well. Almost out of time. Really quickly, and I know this might be, this is a little tough. The Land Use Act, I'm talking about real estate and trying to get more value from there, because there's been high valuations of Nigeria's real estate market. Although some private sector folks say the Land Use Act and it being within the purview of the governors might hinder investment. And I know, these are 36, we've got different governors across including the FCT minister. Amending it or adjusting it, I know that might be a long story, but just what are your thoughts on real estate and the Land Use Act?
Let me even broaden it. Really, under the auspices of the National Economic Council, chaired by His Excellency the Vice President, the governors, the sub-nationals do have the opportunity to sit down and really go through items such as this, which we feel may be holding back investment, they may be holding back the opportunity for people to participate in the economy fully and grow it. So I think it's a topic that's an important one, but I think the right forum initially would be the National Economic Council under His Excellency the Vice President. Just 1 minute to go, Honourable Minister. I have to wrap up. Your outlook for 2026 as quickly as you can. Well, we are predicting 4.68% growth. We hope to achieve that. It's not where we want to be. We're looking at 7% per annum growth, because that's double population growth. And that is the level at which we believe that the renewed hope agenda of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu will really kick in and lift millions of Nigerians out of poverty, which is his ultimate aim of his policy and his leadership.